Chicago.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bridging Chicago. This is part two of our series with Chicago Cares and the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. Be sure to go back and listen to part one if you haven't had a chance. Let's hop back into our conversation with these two amazing organizations. Patricia, can you tell us how the formation of the partnership between Chicago Cares and Northwest Side CDC occurred?
Sure. Um, Back in 2017, Chicago Cares launched what's called the Community Investment Strategy. And that was an opportunity to be able to go deep into the south, west, and northwest sides of the city of Chicago. And that was really important to us to be able to build volunteer capacity where we could be more transformational to the neighborhoods that have what Fabian was talking about a little bit ago, developing community plans or comprehensive plans. And that's something that we really wanted to be able to engage with, to be able to figure out what are some different ways that we can, with our volunteers, be able to support our different neighborhoods. And so Belmont Cragin was actually one of the neighborhoods where we had existing relationships with the Northwest Center. And so the Northwest Center was able to introduce us to the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. But the Northwest Side CDC, as Fabian mentioned earlier, is an affiliate of the Northwest Center.
Right.
So this is we had an opportunity to think about where was there an opportunity to be able to continue to support around placemaking initiatives and have an opportunity to build relationships with our community partner in Belmont Cragin. And that's how the partnership started to form with the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. We also support other community partners in the Belmont Cragin neighborhood as well. And so something that I do want to say is that um, transformational is very key for us. A while back, I remember I ran into somebody and said, Chicago Cares was really known to be more like transactional, one foot in and one foot out. And so we truly have shifted gears to be more of a transformational nonprofit community organization where we could support and follow the lead of our community partners.
Mhm.
And also being able to challenge ourselves, challenge our volunteers to think about what does it truly look like to be transformational and support our community partners, to be sustainable and develop true relationships with our community partners as well. And so that's something that we continue to work on is how can we be a transformational organization to be able to support our community partners on their developing community plans.
And to really engage with them.
Yes, it's very important for us to engage with our community partners. It's important for us to be active listeners. Um, we really truly believe that our community partners, we follow the lead of our community partners, but it's really important that the voice of our community partners is being lifted and that is in existence as well.
Mhm.
And that community residents are able to, as Fabian mentioned earlier, participate in the decision making process,
Right.
to make the decisions that they want to see in their neighborhoods and in their communities. And we're here to be able to walk along the journey with our community partners. We believe in serving with and not to
Right.
community. And it's just really important for us to walk in the journey. And something that we truly believe in is how is it that our volunteers can walk in that journey? It's a journey that we are with our volunteers and community partners, and that's something that we truly believe in when it comes to our mission, the different ways that our volunteers can serve with our community partners.
And when I
There's
hear you say this, Patricia, it echoes what Ellen said in our first episode and what Rob said in our second episode. You echo, you know, exactly, maybe in different words, but same thing. You want to walk with your partners. You want to,
yes,
be a part of them.
yes, we truly believe in that. We don't want to be telling our partners what they should be doing. It's
Right.
really about walking together in this journey and thinking about ways that we can partner together at the end of the day to be able to lift up the city of Chicago in different ways that we can.
Mhm. So, Fabian and Patricia both, I'd like you both to speak to as to this, but can you tell us how the partnership between both of your organizations has enhanced both organizations?
Patricia, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say that our partnership in terms of just really looking at volunteers saying that they have been able to have an opportunity to be educated around the Belmont Cragin neighborhood, to be able to bring awareness of what's been happening and the amazing resources that Belmont Cragin does have as well. And so I think that the partnership of having an opportunity to work with the Northwest CDC, um, to bring along our volunteers to be able to support with different types of resources, and hearing the stories of volunteers saying, I didn't know that this was happening in Belmont Cragin.
Mhm.
And in order for us to know that this was happening, is it was an opportunity to be able to serve in the Belmont Cragin neighborhood. And that could be anywhere from small business coaching, supporting with placemaking efforts, beautification efforts. And I think that that partnership has really given an opportunity for volunteers in the city of Chicago to be able to see that Belmont Cragin is right next door to you. It might even be your neighborhood right next door to you, and
Mhm.
an opportunity to be able to continue to serve in the Belmont Cragin neighborhood, and volunteers to continue to be able to partner with the Northwest Side CDC.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patricia, for saying that. I think for us, Chicago Cares is a way to build capacity, but also really think about the long term, vision for the CDC and how we can be a little bit more efficient. And so, I think my first project with you was, or with Chicago Cares, was the mosaic that we were building, and that was before my time leading up to it, but working together and finding like a place in the neighborhood that would house this. And we weren't very, we were a small organization. We were fairly new and didn't have much experience in being able to recruit volunteers. And that's where Chicago Cares came in. Or, after that was Mercado in La Noche, which was our first ever night market in the parking garage. It was the first really event that we had ever really done. Like, we had done one mural unveiling. It was, in a parking lot, but to this scale that ended up bringing over 1,000 people. Right. It wouldn't have been possible without Chicago Cares' volunteers and text banking and being there to support our event through marketing and through, even just idea building on like, oh, we would like to do this. And, Patricia would know, oh, actually, because of my relationships in these three neighborhoods, here, let me find someone. I heard, or I've worked with this person. And thinking long term, we would love to be a service enterprise. And part of that is working with Chicago Cares and their consultants to be able to create a long term recruitment strategy for volunteers, but also retention and then recognition. And so that way, as much as I love our relationship, hopefully maybe we lean less on Chicago Cares because they helped us build up the CDC to where we can reach out to our own volunteers or our own artist relationships that we have. And so, for us, it really is just they support, we have an idea and sometimes we need a little help. And then Chicago Care comes in and lends us an extra hand and helps us push our events or our even business advising a little further than maybe we even thought it was going to reach.
Right. So
Yeah, and
Chicago
our
Cares
hopes is
is a support system while you need it and when you
Hmm.
need it.
Absolutely. And I think we'll talk about this in a little bit, but our Dia de los Muertos
Yeah, I was
event, like,
going to get
you
into that
know,
definitely.
yeah,
One thing I want to ask before you go
oh,
on
yes.
to that, because I thought of another question. Um,
Yes.
how has this partnership helped the Belmont Cragin neighborhood grow, both physically, as far as residents, businesses? Have you seen a growth?
Yeah, I would say when we were in the middle of the pandemic and towards the end of it, we had lost close to 15% of our businesses. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
like 13 or 14. And that was, that equated to 150 businesses
Yeah,
that we
that's a lot.
lost. And, we understand that we the CDC cannot take the or Chicago Cares the credit for all of this, right? But now, as of right now, in September of 2022, we have close to 1,200 businesses, and so we've grown a lot. And that part of that is through our Mercado series, again finding these vendors, and those a lot of some of those vendors have become incubees in our Crescer incubator.
Okay.
And physically we have mosaics that we've created in the neighborhood. So instead of having underneath the metro station, which can be a little dark, and you walk through there, now it's beautified through this mosaic, through this partnership. And so while whether you're driving or biking or walking through that metro station, you're able to see that. And that mosaic is actually uh, it was voted on by the community, created by the community, but supported by the CDC and Chicago Cares. And then another way, right, is we did the we or Chicago Cares facilitated Belmont Cragin business owners with Austin business owners, and kind of doing a cross pollination of ideas or how they've grown their businesses, and then being able to take that back, and now our business owners actually created ideas stemmed from that session, and we would love to do it again, because it was so successful.
So it's like other business owners helping other business owners.
Hmm. Yes.
And do you think there's been a influx in residents? Do you think more people want to stay? More people want to come into the neighborhood and live?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we are doing our best to um, make sure that the residents that want to stay here can, and the residents
Mm-hmm.
that are staying here get to enjoy it. And so again, that's where
Right.
our events come in. And we, instead of people having to go out of the neighborhood, or realizing, oh well, maybe Belmont Cragen doesn't have the amenities that I want or that I need, right? We're really focusing on bringing those in, and so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that means getting 13 miles of protected bike lanes, so now residents can be a little less car centric, and bike to their grocery store or
Right.
bike to their church or get on a scooter. And so now they don't have to rely on that car or go to another neighborhood to get these restaurants, right? And so we also have different events or marketing strategies that we have, so that residents can realize all the diverse food that they have, so that they don't have to go to other neighborhoods if there's a cuisine that's missing, and they realize, wow, there's a Peruvian restaurant that is in Rogers Park, but that's too far. Oh wait, actually, there's a Peruvian restaurant 2 blocks away from
Mm-hmm.
me, and it tastes just like home.
Right.
And so yeah, we again, through that and through our business advising and through our rental counseling, we do our best so that residents can stay here and not be displaced by anyone wanting to come in.
Right. So
Mhm.
now let's talk about your next event. I think coming up that Chicago Cares is working on with you for, and this is going to be October 22nd and 29th.
Yes.
So talk about
Uh,
that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a two-part Dia de los Muertos event, in partnership with Chicago Cares, and so we are and other partners as well. So we're working with um, Steinmetz High School to be able to bring in high schoolers as well, bring in residents, and then even outside visitors. And so, um, for context, this is actually an event funded partly by the city of Chicago through the Neighborhood Access Program
Okay.
that was unveiled last year, and it was to bring art specific events in the neighborhood. And we, unfortunately, Belmont Cragen can be an arts desert at times, and so we are actively looking again through these events, finding artists that perform or that create murals that can facilitate community murals and help people paint or loteria. And so we this was a way to bring art specific events to Belmont Cragen, but we were thinking, how do we flip the script again, like always thinking, how can we be innovative, or how can we make sure that this is a little bit more with community engagement or working for the community. And so we thought, instead of bringing one event, what if we bring multiple? What if we bring ones that actually just aren't specific to a culture, but multiple? And so we brought in Dia del Nino back in April, and then we had um, the Dia de los Muertos. We had a speaker truth writing poetry workshop that was facilitated by Mexican artists, and then we have a community paranda, which is going on in December. But with Dia de los Muertos, again, all of these events, we wanted to create an educational component. Not everyone is Mexican, not everyone is Ecuadorian, not everyone is Puerto Rican that lives in Belmont Cragin. And so how can we create educational components? And so the 22nd is going to be a time for us to create a community altar together, facilitated by an artist who can describe the reasons why or the history of community altars, or altars in general, and Dia
Mm-hmm.
de los Muertos traditions. And then the 29th, a partnership with Steinmetz. We're trying to convert the school, because they have a Dia de los Muertos art curriculum, and use and create a makeshift art gallery, and so the high schoolers can present their work to the community, but also get to educate and say, I created this painting, or recreated papel picado, and this is why it's important to Dia de los
Mm-hmm.
Muertos, or this is what it signifies, while also having that create community altar that was built on the 22nd will be at the 29th. And now we're going to have a one-stop shop where people can print out their photos. They can get a free sugar skull or free marigold flowers, or Mexican candy, and they can have those from the vendors and actually place them on the community altar. And throughout the event, you'll see it get bigger and bigger and filled with more photos of, unfortunately, the loved ones that we've lost.
Right.
And then those vendors that are providing those for the community altar, they'll be able to go to them and actually we're creating a one-stop shop for your personal altar at home as well.
So what what kind of impact do you see all the events that you have and the timing of them? What kind of impact do you see on the community?
Yeah. So, the we try to be intentional with all of our events to the best of our ability. And so, for this specific one, we hope that people that are from Mexico and moved to Chicago, they get to experience an event like this again, for maybe their kids or their cousins or friends that maybe are younger, and they were born in the U.S. and didn't haven't been to a Dia de los Muertos event. Now they get to experience one and know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And for non-Mexicans or visitors of Belmont Cragin, well, now they get to again, they get to experience it, but that educational component, make sure that we're doing it in a very respectful way.
Yeah.
With business owners, now they get to sell some of their goods, and again, putting their name out there. And I think overarching, it's making sure that we're continuing to create a community in Belmont Cragin.
Mm-hmm.
And again, instead of people having to go to Pilsen or Little Village, or even sometimes Logan Square or Hermosa could be far, right? We're the only ones doing it in this far into the Northwest Side.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the community gets to have an event for them, created by business owners and residents, and that live in Belmont Cragin, and are the ones that hand built this altar,
So
as opposed to going to another neighborhood.
it's an
Yeah,
event in your community created by your community.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Patricia, is there anything that you would like to add that maybe we haven't touched on that you feel is important that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think also the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead event, we are piloting our, for the first time, this is also going to be a collaborative fundraiser. We want to make sure that there's also sustainable funding that continues to come through so that we
Mm-hmm.
can continue to have um, and collaborate on these types of cultural events in the community as well. And so we've also, our hopes is that we have our some sponsors that will be able to sponsor this event, and that we're able to see that there's definitely a successful event to continue to be able to offer these types of events. And we know that with that, it's also the support of funds and fundraising. So we want to continue to do that. But I just want to say that I really appreciate our partnership with the Northwest Side CDC. it's also very symbolic for us to continue to partner with our community partners in Belmont Cragin, and to be able to collaborate around different ways that we can support the local communities.
Mhm. And Fabian, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us is that we may not have touched on that you feel is important for our listeners to know?
Um, I think the last thing that I would want to talk about is, um, we try and make sure that we are respectful in every way, to all of our events, right? And we think something that we are very careful about are making sure that we're not, like, I think, pimping out our culture for visitors to come in and bring money, or right. Events, these traditions are very important to our residents or to
Mm-hmm.
people that live in Belmont Cragin. And so wanting to make sure that we're respectful, and the way that we do that is by working with, an artist that is knowledgeable in this, making sure that all the music is created by neighborhood bands, and then again working with our vendors. So we try to just make everything as local as possible,
Right.
and again having that intentionality even with our Mercado series and the way that we do it. Like, we, working with what we have, and instead of closing, right, we don't have a big venue that we could potentially have an event at, but we have a parking garage. And so how do we take that back, and make it for our residents?
Mm-hmm. How do you
And
utilize
same thing
what
with.
you have?
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And just, we understand that sometimes it's baby steps in these
Right.
larger initiatives that we want to do, but we just have faith that it will roll, snowball into something, and people will see their work. And, we're very lucky that we have community partners and residents that are very engaged in this, in the neighborhood. And so they make sure to help us out in any way that they can.
Right. Yeah, it sounds
Mhm.
like your community is very engaged, which is a wonderful thing.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. Be sure to visit www.bridgingchicago.com to check out all of our episodes and find ways to connect with our guests. You can also visit us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, where our handle is @BridgingChicago.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bridging Chicago, as produced by the SATC Solutions Center. Nothing contained in this podcast shall constitute financial, investment, legal, and/or professional advice. No professional relationship of any kind is created between you and the podcast host or guest. You are urged to speak with your financial, investment, or legal advisors before making any investment or legal decisions. Furthermore, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of SATC Solutions Center, SATC Law, or any of its employees. This podcast is created by the hosts and guests' individual capacities. All opinions on this podcast are or have been rendered based on specific facts, under certain conditions, and are subject to certain assumptions, and may not and should not be used or relied upon for any other purpose, including but not limited to, or use in or in connection with any investment purposes or legal proceeding.